Thank you, Murray. Any discussion? There being none, all those in favour, please say aye. Yes, carried. And the other thing, I need to take an apology. Apology.
Yeah, we have an apology for Councillor
Yeah, for Councillor Gottlieb. So do I have a reader for that?
Yep.
Robin, Stephen, Terry, thanks for your training. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. And there is nothing else left to do before we next get to no other resolutions from us. Right, Leslie.
Good afternoon, everyone. I have put around the table, we have got one late submission from Freight Trent, number 1802. It would be number 1802, which I've tabled today.
Okay.
We had a submission that was made not late, but it somehow didn't end up in the LTP submissions inbox, so we didn't process it, but we're tabling it today. It's not a late submission, the one from Linda Chumley-Smith. And Linda will be appearing at the hearing in Whitianga tomorrow to speak to her submission.
Right.
So in total, we have 1,624 submissions and 59 submissions that are late. Also, we've got significantly reduced the number of people who want to be heard. I think a number of people have decided that they're going to let one person speak instead of letting them speak individually. So I'm not quite sure the number, but it's significantly reduced from 191.
Yeah, through the chair, this means that we could potentially be removing the Friday meeting.
Wow.
Oh, okay. I didn't know there was a Friday one.
Yeah. That's why I apologies then.
No, I did. Sorry, I was thinking of something else. No big problem. Okay. That's fine. Thank you very much, Leslie. Appreciate that. And it's great that you've covered those ones that just escaped the system. So if that's being the case, I shall now call the first submitter. This document. Okay. Thank you for being such a wonderful. Right, Denise Ritchie via Microsoft Teams and submitter 458-106, page 172. Presume it's in here. I didn't bring all my documents through.
Isn't that one? You'll think it's submission page.
Yeah, no, that's great. Okay, so Denise Ritchie, is she available?
She's there. Yeah.
She's got his sound.
Good on you, Denise. Sound? Sound?
Sorry, we're having trouble hearing you today.
That's all right. She just needs to press her button. Find your button to unmute.
She's unmuted, but it's not.
So, no, she can't be unmuted.
She is unmuted. But
You're unmuted?
yeah.
Is there a thumbs up to unmuted? All right, she's unmuted. Is it our end?
Does she hear?
Yeah, it might be a microphone or speaker end, I'm not sure.
It could be on that speaker she's using, she might have to change the setting on her computer.
Should we hear somebody else?
We can, I'll get the team to work
Okay.
where we move.
Okay, look, Denise, I'm sorry, but we can't hear you. Can we get someone to call you? Right, okay, is someone can someone call you?
Yeah, I'll get one of my team members to do that.
And we'll have to reschedule you. But if someone rings you shortly, we might be able to do that.
Yeah,
In
we'll do that
between.
in the next,
Yeah. Okay, so hang in there. Thank you. Okay, so look, sorry about that. Alistair Thompson via Microsoft Teams. Alistair, are you with us?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay,
Hello.
Hello, Alistair, welcome. Sorry about that.
thank you.
Please fire ahead. And we have your submission, submitter number 191. So you can take that as read if you like and just expand on the points.
Okay, well, you know that my submission concerns the community proposal for permanent protection of the Matarangi open space. You know, I think the key thing that I want to say is that elected representatives have a great opportunity here, and as such, you're entrusted with doing the right thing, especially when you get an opportunity. And the right thing here, to me, is very, very clear, and that is to secure this land in perpetuity for Matarangi and indeed for the whole district as a community reserve. In my opinion, that should be a community. It should be a reserve in the ownership of council, as you'll see from my submission. And the ultimate cost at 2.36 million, you know, quite frankly, I mean, you all know how valuable that land is. It's being held there, and the owners are willing to make a significant donation, I think of $260,000 towards the cost. But my main point is, make the decision based upon what is the right thing to do, not on money. The decision about how to pay for this comes later. It may even be quite a bit later. That's your business. But it is really, really important, I think, to secure this land. So I do oppose the council's option 1 to do nothing because you haven't provided funding. I don't think the funding is the issue of the moment. The issue of the moment is the designation over this land. And it's a matter of principle to secure this reserve in perpetuity, especially when you go back and look at the list, some of which I've provided for you. And I've also, I mean, I know the local group want to have it in trust ownership. I've said, well, I would accept that, but I've given you 4 very strong reasons why the land should be in council ownership, and I'm not going to repeat them. You've no doubt read them. So I support option 3. And I think the district and Matarangi deserves nothing less. When you consider it only gets back to the minimum that was planned to happen way back since the inception of Matarangi in the 1960s and 70s. So my conclusion there, I'll leave you to read, but I've said that elected representatives are trusted with doing the right thing when it's hard, and this is the right thing to do, and I strongly urge you to adopt your option number 3. And if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you very much, Alistair. I'd just like to acknowledge your service, Alistair, to the wider community of the Thames-Coromandel District as a mayor previously. So
thank you.
Thank you.
If I may say, it reminds me of a circumstance that I struck when I was mayor at I was trying to think, Opatama, when that whole sand dune, described as one of the greatest sand dunes in the world, actually, by authorities. And there was a block of private land in the middle of it. And a person wanted to build a house on it, and it just wasn't acceptable. So the only way we could protect it in the end was to buy it and put the designation of a reserve on it. And to do that, because money is always hard, I went on a fundraising campaign with most of our Auckland and Waikato ratepayers, and we raised the money. And Doc contributed and others contributed, and it cost the ratepayers very, very little. And I mean, that's another option for you. So these things can be done, but you first got to get the land in the public ownership.
Thank you, Alistair. Any questions of Alistair? There'd be none. Thank you very much, Alistair. Appreciate your input into this. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All the best. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, thank you.
Ross Stewart, 227. Submitted 227. Ross, you with us? Is Ross with us?
No, I'm just looking at the list.
Okay, how about we go to Alan Bartram?
Yes.
Alan, we have it in person.
Oh.
I come and talk to the school board. I'm Alan Bartram, Golf Muscle Farms, Coromandel Muscle Kitchen, and I'm just here to tell you about the inappropriate increases in charges you want to charge mussel farmers. And why is it inappropriate? Well, I think COVID has ravaged our industry. The returns, the actual sales price has dropped 50%. And if you can sell your product in a factory, because the factories have no labour to process it, you're lucky. So therefore, a whole lot more drops off on the farms. So effectively, we're running our businesses now with a reduced income of 50%. And no business in New Zealand runs at a 50% profit. So the council now want to, all the good people in the council, your team, all the people on guaranteed incomes in the council now want to impose increased fees on the sector of the economy that is most affected by COVID. So when you look around, 80% of people in New Zealand aren't affected by COVID. All our workers, they're not affected. In our businesses, there's only 3 or 4 people that are affected by the worry of the economics. Everyone else gets through it. All the civil servants, all the people on good salaries are not affected by COVID. But by trying to impose new fees, new licences on people that are affected by COVID, at the moment, it's just inappropriate. So that's the message I'm giving to you. There's a small percentage of people out there that are radically affected by COVID. Mussel farming people that generate an income from it, i.e. owners and the people that pay the bills, are radically affected by this. And just like many of you councillors are always telling us you don't have any money, well, we don't even have it. We haven't even got it coming in. We are in a survival mode. It's totally inappropriate for people on guaranteed incomes to raise fees for those people that are affected by COVID. That's the message.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ellen. Are there any questions of Ellen? So, can I just say that there was one aspect of harbour fees and charges that was not going to be progressed, and I'm not sure whether, without...
we don't need to go into that detail here, Sandra. I don't know the detail myself. All I say is you want to impose yet another licence. We're drowning in bureaucracy. Like all government departments are putting more and more bureaucracy. You develop a licensing system for the Coromandel Wharf. How much is it going to cost you to just keep that licensing system going? And we all know what licenses do. They start at $1 and 4 years later at $4. But just think of the cost of running yet another licensing system. We're licensed to Africa. We don't need more licenses. You don't need you to issue a licence. We're surveyed, we've got every goddamn thing, the health and safety thing under the world already. We don't need you people giving us another licence. Thank you.
Appreciate that. No question. Thank you very much, Ellen.
Very clear.
Right, okay, so is Ross Stewart with us? Ross is not with us.
Is Denise back?
Is Denise back? No, nobody's going here?
Denise is back. She is online right now.
Denise, are you there? So we need video and sound. She's been admitted in?
Yeah, no, she's in, and she looks like she is unmute, so she still appears to have some issues with it.
We can't see you, so we can't tell whether or not. Okay. Something's Denise, we've got you, right. Have you unmuted?
Yeah, she's.
Thumbs up, she's unmuted, but we still can't hear you.
Something's wrong.
You can hear us, but that's not appropriate for today. Look, we'll keep trying, Denise, and we'll get that communication happening one way or another. Sorry about this. Rightio, we'll have to go on to Des Ratima and Adrian Clothier.
Who's here in person?
Oh, right, okay. I just keep looking at the screen. Sorry. Sorry, Des. If you want to grab another chair.
Yeah.
And you want to come around further to the page? Don't worry about the screen. Sorry, guys.
Right. Kia ora koutou, my name is Des Ratava and with me is Adrian Clothier and we'll be speaking on behalf of Creative Waikato. So firstly, I'd like to start by acknowledging the council and staff who work in going through this long-term planning process. We appreciate there's lots of submissions and lots of consider, so thank you for the time and listening to us. We'd also like to take the opportunity to acknowledge He Manatua Moiho Trust for their commitment and significant contribution in supporting and enabling arts and culture in your district. By proactively valuing and supporting the arts, culture and creative sector, we can add value and enhance the wellbeing of our people. From wellbeing to recovery, to livability, to the nature of creativity being one of the fundamental qualities that make us human. These things are measurable, even though the lived holistic experience of them is ephemeral and intangible, but often the best things in life are like that. But also for those who want more facts and figures, we can also talk to the economic benefit of investment in the arts. It is currently huge and could be even more through increased civic investment. We know that this investment flows through our local growing community of creative professionals. We know it enables creative professionals to be based in the Waikato region, rather than moving to Wellington, Auckland or overseas. This increases the overall appeal of our region. This investment flows through the soft people and services and hard facilities, for instance, infrastructure in the local sector, a sector that regularly makes each dollar go far further than its initial monetary value through the passionate support, countless volunteer hours, and in-kind support from local businesses and professionals. This broad societal engagement and nourishment of arts, culture and creativity is a strength for our region. To further empower this, we present the Waikato Arts Navigator strategy, which would have been in your submission. We have Haraki here if you'd like also. This is a mechanism to help achieve a broader impact, a link to other regional and community strategies, a collaborative approach that connects enablers with practitioners with a focus on real community benefit. Since the COVID pandemic, Creative Waikato has been talking to councils about opportunities to utilise art solutions for post-COVID recovery. This has been informed by our community-led research that has been developed over the past 8 years, but with a focus on the Navigator framework since 2018. We present this as a shared framework, including a vision and strategy for supporting and strengthening our arts and culture in the region. It can serve to guide planning and decision making. Our aspirational vision is to see our region become a place with a vibrant arts and cultural sector that thrives with diverse and transformative creative activity. Thames-Coromandel has an important part to play in that space for the region, and this change has been emerging through the actions that already occur in our towns and communities. But we also acknowledge that there is an opportunity to make some collective impact with a strategy that is forward in its intent but localised in its action. The Waikato Arts Navigator has been shared with all councils in the area, but also with funders, community organisations and other regional enablers to seek alignment and find ways that we can all track in the same direction, with cross-regional efforts that will support, complement and strengthen one another, as well as bringing more potential for national funding opportunities. For Creative Waikato, we present this document and to raise awareness of this resource and to ask that this council aligns their own policy, strategy and process with the Navigator. As a strategic partner, Creative Waikato also offers to formally be a collaborative partner to work out actions to align with this framework alongside key community partners. All these things combined with increased opportunities such as the Ministry for Social Development Creative Careers pilot program that Creative Waikato is running in the region for the next 2 years, and the availability for Ministry of Culture and Heritage funding for cultural installations and events, community activation, innovation and showcasing the region. This has huge potential for some really transformative work to happen. We know that arts, culture and creativity are powerful levers for positive social change. They show us that we make the world rather than simply inherit it. This is why the vision for arts, culture and creativity to be embedded more broadly in future opportunities throughout the Waikato ecosystem. There is tremendous talent and value here, and there is so much potential to have positive collective impact in this space. Thank you for your time, patience and consideration. We look forward to any questions and to continue on our strategic journey together.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
Yeah, I just got one quick one.
Yes, Kerry.
Yeah, hi, Terry. The work that we do with Thames-Coromandel is really appreciated. You're looking for us to adopt a strategy, or just how do you want to connect?
Yeah, at present that's our request of all councillors, is to endorse the strategy as a sort of strategic framework.
Right.
You may have your own existing policies that could align with that strategy as well. But the point of having all councillors endorse it is that we can, one of the primary reasons is that we can have it as a key tool for advocacy,
Yes.
for future funding potential.
Very good.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't we want to do with that with our East Regional, sub-regional grouping of the Thames, Haraki and Navigator councils as a natural grouping rather than with the rest of the Waikato, given that the Waikato Ranges it seems to be a natural divide.
Are you suggesting that those three parties adopt the strategy together? I'm not sure.
No, that they have their own.
Have their own strategy?
What's the advantage to them of being part of just being part of a Waikato grouping rather than have their own?
Well, that would be up to them to decide. I mean, we have the Waikato region includes 10 local authorities. We're going up to each council, and it would be up to them to decide whether or not to adopt it. Would be going to central government and Creative New Zealand anyway, and using it as a tool in terms of whoever adopts it as a key tool for advocacy and sort of regional alignment around some of the outcomes.
And that's why I'm saying that Eastern sub-regional grouping could go for their own funding.
If they choose to do that, I mean, or not, that would be up to them to decide, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Putting it out there. There are no other questions? Great, thank you. Thank you very much for your submission, and we'll be in contact in due course. Thank you.
Sure, yeah.
Right, Chris we still haven't got Denise, so we've got Chris McClay on behalf of the Waikato Regional Council coming in via Microsoft Teams.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship, the Mayor Goldie. Can you hear me?
We can, loud and clear.
Thank you, and we can see you as well. Look, I've got with me Councillor Tegg, who you will well know, and Blair Dickey, one of our principal strategic advisors. I'll be presenting to the submission. And look, we appreciate the opportunity to make a submission. I think I heard before that you've got a large number of submissions. I might have heard 1,600 or so, which shows there's obviously a lot of community interest, so well done. Most of our points we're raising are supportive of what you're doing and trying to advocate for what you're doing and maybe even going a bit further. The first I'll refer to is with respect to climate change. We acknowledge that you've recognised climate change as the challenge as an important issue for your district, particularly identifying water issues as a result of weather extremes, be they droughts or floods, and sea level rise, as well as servicing of climate change affected land. You know, in this regard, we're saying we're here to help. Obviously, climate change will require assessments of risk and follow-up actions such as water use efficiencies, water storage at a range of scales, land use change, including transition from increasingly hazardous areas, and land use change for maintenance of biodiverse areas that provide critical ecosystem services in response to sea level rise. We support your desire to better understand water use in the Whitianga and Whangamata townships and to reduce climate change-induced risk to those communities. We also support the preparation of local-scale spatial plans and encourage that any public investment is prudent and has regard to both evidence-based information and takes into consideration a risk management approach. To this end, we support the development of shoreline management plans in response to rising sea levels and are committed to partnering with your council and its communities to develop agreed and enduring climate adaptation responses. that will inform the development of local spatial plans so that future growth is not directed into increasingly at-risk areas. We note the changes that are going on in central government with respect to legislation, with a stronger emphasis on climate change adaptation and mitigation, and we welcome an opportunity to work with you to learn more about the nature of those changes and its implications. We encourage your council to develop a corporate emissions reduction plan to lower greenhouse gas emissions, and we're happy to offer assistance or advice on that matter. With respect to natural hazards, we note that a number of proposed investments may have been planned, and we recommend that to ensure that projects be updated with new information from your shoreline management planning work and other research into natural hazards, that those projects, especially in the early years of the LTP, be updated as new information becomes available that is relevant. We're happy to support you with that. We welcome the opportunity to continue to discuss, continue discussions regarding development around Thames. We support a collaborative adaptation planning approach with TCDC to arrive at a shared view on the appropriateness of significant land use change, community and network infrastructure in areas which have that are subject to natural hazard risks. And we look forward to further engagement with you over the siting of the proposed aquatic facility south of Thames Airfield. With regards to transport, we look forward to working with you on developing further public transport and walking and cycling options for residents to move both within the district and between neighbouring districts. We encourage you to ensure there's adequate funding and resourcing to enable these conversations to take place. We also just like to note that the Thames Connector bus service has reached the end of its contract and is due to be retendered. We anticipate there could well be a price increase with the new contract that will be higher than the current one, obviously, and we encourage you to ensure that there's adequate funding set aside. With waste, we suggest in addition to the curbside collection services you have, you look at waste prevention opportunities in the district, and also look at options for organic waste collection and processing. With your landfill rehabilitation program, we note that you have funding for additional fill in the closed Thames landfill for the 28-29 year. However, we note that there's not funding allocated to rehabilitating any other coastal landfill sites in the district, and we would encourage you to consider that. With Three Waters, we are fully cognizant of the pressures that yourselves and other local authorities have in relation to the requirements for Three Waters and compliance. And whilst that we believe you do have sound infrastructure, we note that there's ongoing challenges in some areas in achieving full compliance, and encourage you to assist your staff to make sure they've got enough funding over the lifetime of the LTP so that you can meet your consent obligations. And finally, with respect to biodiversity, we're proposing a significant increase in the term of this LTP for biodiversity investment. And we'd suggest that having some revenue set aside in your LTP to enable you to deliver an updated district biodiversity strategy would also be useful. Thank you, Mayor. That's the highlights that we bring to your attention.
Right, thank you very much indeed, Chris. So there'll probably be some questions, and I noticed on 16 you talked about additional resourcing to enable conversations to take place. I'm sure that you're suggesting that we have money put aside for us to have conversations. Yeah, well, obviously, you know, active modes of transport, trying to get people out and out of cars and using other options. There's going to be a lot of progress made in that part of our business, and that would be looking for you to assist with the infrastructure in those areas. How realistic do you think that is for a district like ours, which is incredibly topographically challenged? Yeah, I think that's something that we'd look forward to having those discussions about what might be feasible. And another question is, what happens if there's no appetite for increased funding from the community of the Thames ward for the increased cost of the connector bus service?
Again, that's something that we'd have to have discussions about, but we would be asking you to actively consider that. We understand that the government is trying to promote public transport as a way of assisting people to get out of private vehicles. We're also very cognizant that throughout the region, there are people who are unable to, that can't use their own vehicles and rely on some type of other transport being provided for connectivity. So we would encourage your community to absolutely look at funding that.
So you do understand the concept of no frills and nice to haves?
Yeah, and I guess that's the challenge of all our councils when we're putting these long-term plans together.
Are there any further questions of the Regional Council?
Yeah, got one.
Terry?
Terry Walker. I just want to say, firstly, thanks for your support in trying to get a bus service over in our ward. And secondly, with the cycle and railway walkway options, do you see this as a joint approach with WRC and TCDC in the community? How do you see that funding for those?
Absolutely, and of course, these things, it's good to attract government funding, and having being part of a larger plan assists that. I don't know if Councillor Tegg's got anything he'd like to add to that.
Any other questions of this? What's the estimated cost to the Whamata local community for a bus service?
I think I can answer that. In the region of $30,000, something of that order, depending on how many days a week it would run. But I think the proposal, Terry can correct me if I'm wrong, but it'll be 2 days a week, one day from Taurua and 1 day from Whangamata. That's a very rough sort of estimate.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Thank you. All right, thank you very much indeed. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you. We appreciate the ability, you allowing us this time.
It's all right. I'm just teasing.
Thank you.
That's good. Thank you. Right, Joanne Elizabeth Malcolm via Microsoft Teams.
Good God. Please don't call me Joanna or Elizabeth. Only my mother calls me that. Joe.
I didn't mean to read the name out in full, but I'm looking at the paper and it just sort of happened.
Oh, don't do that to me. That's a terrible thing. It's a terrible thing.
What do I call you?
You can call me Joe. Call me Joe, just don't call me late for breakfast.
Love you. Rightio.
Right, thank you. Tēnā koutou katoa. Look, thank you for your time and thank you for your gift of service to the community. I'll be brief because I know how long these days become. I'm a member of the Matarangi Community Trust Board and a long-time Matarangi resident. I want to point out that I am neither an Auckland dick nor am I a rich prick. I don't play golf, I don't own a boat, and I'm not one to play tennis. And yet I believe absolutely that our community should have all of those amenities that allow others to enjoy those activities. I will likely never swim in the Thames Centennial Pool, nor will I take a book out of the Thames Library. It is highly unlikely that at my age I will take a skateboard for a whirl around the Whitianga skate park. But I do not resent contributing to those important community assets, because that's what makes a community, coming together to do things that you love with others who live nearby. Now, I live about as far away from the golf course as you can and still be a Matarangi resident. But I absolutely love walking the spit, watching the dotterels, looking back across that wide open space with huge trees and green lawns. And I am more than happy to pay a targeted rate to ensure that it remains open space. And if it's open space, it makes good sense that it's used for golf. My view is one that is shared by a clear majority of ratepayers in Matarangi. Matarangi open space is what makes our little piece of the peninsula unique. The community centre, the dunes, the ability to gather, have a book club or a quiz night, play bowls, share a drink, hold an event. All of these things matter hugely to those who live full-time and those who reside part-time. Having a place to connect and space to breathe are core reasons why we choose to buy in Matarangi and why we choose to stay. And the only way we can ensure that we don't lose what it is that we have, as we did with our airfield and as we did with at least one of our tennis courts, is that the community own it. And that way we can shape and protect it. We are in the situation that we're in because TCDC let the Matarangi community down. They failed in their duty to protect our open space. We have spent 10 years fighting to save it. And we've never asked or expected that the whole peninsula pay for a local golf course. The fact that the long-term plan document portrayed that to the rest of the peninsula is incredibly disappointing. All we asked is that this council take responsibility for TCDC's part in the situation we find ourselves in and work with us in partnership to fix it. The community has done and will continue to do the heavy lifting. We are simply asking you to do the right thing and contribute your fair share. So I'm asking you to please vote to protect our open space by way of a grant and a targeted rate, or option 2.
Thank you, Joe. Very well spoken. Can I just ask, what's the total population of Matarangi?
In terms of permanent residents or how it swells at Christmas time?
Terms of registered ratepayer properties.
Well, I think that's actually really hard to say, and I think it's changed in the last 12 months considerably. So, for example, we didn't used to spend nearly as much time in Matarangi as we did a year ago. The last year we've spent much more time there. My husband and I both work now from home, and the moment our daughter is not in school, we'll spend an awful lot more time there. And the people around me, in terms of definition of a permanent resident, I'd say probably 20% of the houses. But if you took the definition of people who spend more than 30% of the year there, I would say you're probably up to 80% of the houses. So I think it's changed. I think COVID's really changed the dynamic of how many people are choosing to live and work from Matarangi. And the ultra-fast broadband has definitely helped that.
Okay, so that doesn't really clarify the total ratepayer majority that
Sorry, when you say ratepayer, I don't understand what you mean.
Yes. Well, you've said that you did say that there's a clear majority in favour.
Yeah, there is a clear majority in favour in terms of submissions, Sandra. As I understand it, there's well over 67% of the whole peninsula supporting this particular proposal. That's quite a big percentage by any stretch, especially given the way the long-term plan was written. And I don't know whether you can break down how many of those submissions came from Matarangi, but I do know that the trust hand-delivered 500. So I'd say 500 of the 1,600 that you got came from Matarangi at least, and I suspect there's probably another 100 that came from online.
All right, thank you. Any further questions of Joe? There being none, really appreciate it. Thank you very much, Joe.
That's right, thanks for hearing.
Thank you. Right, we're going to try Denise Allen, so if you just hold fire. Denise.
Okay, have we got any more joy this week? So nice. Okay, just for your information, the browser version of Teams didn't work. I'm now on an app. Okay, so as a brief introduction, various members of my family have owned property at Matarangi since 1986, so that's really early days, and we've regularly holidayed there ever since. My husband and I purchased our own house in Matarangi in 2015, and we continue to holiday up there at that. I have a Bachelor of Town Planning from Auckland University, and I used to work as a district planner, although I'm now retired. Okay, having had such a long association with the village, I know a lot of its history. And with my town planning background, I've always been interested in watching how it's been evolving. In the early days, it was really exciting to see a community proposed to be developed from scratch. It's a really rare opportunity, and it's not very often that a whole settlement gets to be developed to a cohesive plan, especially beachside communities, which tend to just develop piecemeal, small areas subdivided over many years, open spaces and other amenities being just tacked on as the opportunity arises. So through until about the mid-90s, this plan actually started coming to fruition. Several stages went ahead and it was all looking very exciting. And then everything turned to custard. The property changed hands, and then there's been multiple developers since then, several changes of council since then, and there seemed to be a loss of the site of this original, and housing development was allowed to occur and the open space wasn't put aside, and there was the risk that Matarangi would lose its uniqueness. I could go into a great deal of detail about the various things that we're, because I've got a lot of that history here, but I've only got 5 minutes, and I'm sure you've had reports already that tell you a lot of that Matarangi history. But I mean, if there's anything that you think I might know that you haven't already got, by all means ask, and I'm happy to supply anything that I've got here. What I'm more concerned about right now is sorting this thing out going forward. Hundreds of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars of ratepayers' money and of Ratepayers Association money and community money has gone into fighting this issue over many years. Joe just mentioned 10 years. I think it's longer than that. This has been ongoing. If it's not sorted out, I can envisage there'll be more wasted money going forward. After the recent Environment Court decision, that was whatever it was, 2018 or 2019, which upheld this land being retained as open space, a group of really generous people purchased the golf course land and associated buildings to stave off an appeal to the High Court. Now that would have been even more expense for the ratepayers and the community. So that was really good that they did that and gave us some breathing space. But that breathing space is not going to last forever. And continued ownership by this group is not a viable option going forward. If those owners' circumstances change and they decide to sell the land, we're all back to square one. The land needs to be in community ownership. Whether it should be owned by the council or by the Matarangi Community Trust, which is newly created and really active, it's debatable. Our own preference would be for the council, in recognition of its past failings, to provide some financial assistance for the community trust to purchase the land and to run it going forward. However, we're not averse to the council actually only continuing to own land as land. Either way would get it out of private ownership and help us keep that open space. So really what I'm asking in my submission is please act now to give us a permanent solution. Don't keep putting it off and risk future expense fighting the same issue over and over again. It's all very well to want a no-frills budget, but I believe that's false economy, as the past has shown. Don't keep delaying this, please. Help us get a permanent solution. Work with Community Trust to get this. Thank you.
Well done. And you got right through without cutting off and lose you. We're delighted that we managed to find some way to communicate. Denise, so would you be quite happy for a targeted rate to cover all the costs going forward ad infinitum?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. Are there any other questions?
Certainly we would. We'd be very happy with that.
Right. Any other questions or queries for Denise? There being none. There have been plenty of submissions on this one, Denise, so thank you very much, and we do have lots of information, so thank you so much. We appreciate your perseverance.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right, so now we move to Ellen Bullock via Microsoft. Thanks for being so patient, Ellen.
You're on mute.
Still on mute. Hang on, hold on.
I can't unmute you, Alan, you're gonna have to do that yourself. Thank you.
Is that okay now?
Yeah, perfect.
Cool. Non-standard setup. Right, very cool. Keep this very brief. Firstly, just a brief thank you to everyone that's giving their time to go through and help the community. I know it's a pretty thankless job that you go through and go and do this sort of thing. Very focused submission on my point. It's about keeping the Molochs at Opito Bay, very, very strongly in support of keeping them there. If it's a question of cash in terms of the total rubbish situation for Opito Bay, then I'd strongly support that you take revenue costs away by not doing nearly as many curbside collections and leave it for the Molochs. The vast majority of people at Opito Bay are not permanent residents, and they leave at the end of a weekend often, which doesn't line up with rubbish days. If the rubbish is put out, the birds get into it, everything like that, or you put it out and you don't have anyone to bring it back, you advertise that there's no one in the homes and all of this situation. The Molochs work pretty well. They do get a bit overloaded at some of the peak times. Whether that's a case then of you maybe have slightly greater collections from the Molochs at that point. And in terms of the overload that happens, I was down there at one point when the rubbish guy turned up. So me and a couple of other local holiday residents just sorted it all out and helped him for 15 minutes. And I'm sure the community can help to do that sort of situation to go through. So I would be very, very, very strongly supportive of keeping the Molochs there. I've used my time or just waiting and listening to the other submissions to try and read through the submissions. Virtually the only negative submissions in terms of supporting the removal of the Molochs don't seem to have any comments next to them. And I suspect that's only because people are looking at money is not unlimited, how do we save money? And my strong suggestion is for the same pool of money that's happening with curbside collections and Molochs, you could probably get a better situation by shifting that balance, even if you went to the extent of completely removing curbside collection. At Anzac weekend, an extremely unscientific survey of 4 people standing around on the beach at Opito, including one person who's a permanent resident, he said he can never remember when it's rubbish day there, so doesn't even use the curbside collection. He always uses the Moloch, and he's a permanent resident. So that would be my point in a nutshell. Happy to take any questions or discussions.
Is that because the Molochs there are working more like a de facto transfer station? Yeah. Anyone that's at Opito Bay is going to have enough mobility, I would say. Anyone that can put out their own rubbish is going to have enough mobility to jump in a car and drive down and throw the rubbish out. The reality is, from the unscientific survey I've done, no one would really miss if you took away curbside collection. But everyone would be really angry if you took away the Molochs. That's a strong statement. Would you accept a targeted rate to keep them? Yes, but I don't necessarily, I personally would. I think that would be great, but I don't want to speak on behalf of others in other circumstances. But the collection of the rubbish is not necessarily seen throughout the year as a big thing. There's so few people that are down there full time. I mean, it'd be interesting just to see what the volume is that's actually collected from curbside rubbish in terms of having the truck drive the whole way over there. It's a good point that you make, but you do have a new subdivision going in which will change things. It's only 80 houses that are going to go down there that'll be built up over a period of time. And again, it's still jumping in a car, you know, you're at the beach, you're on holiday, it's a community event to go and throw your rubbish out and you chat to people down there.
Yeah.
But only takes one ratepayer to lodge a judicial review. Anyway, but then again though, what is the service? And if there is, to be brutally honest, if there's someone that's absolutely desperate for a curbside collection, then you know, someone else who is there will drive past, pick it up and go and throw it in the Moloch. So you're not worried about the whakapā Molochs? Sorry? You're not worried about the whakapā Molochs? Can't really comment.
I've been going to Waikato Bay since 1974. Yeah, no, I've been going to Waikato Bay since 1974. The Molocks are a great capital asset that's already had council money funded into them that's already there. The ongoing maintenance cost of them versus curbside collection, I think, is minor. To move to full wheelie bins or something else that you'd have to do for people to put stuff out, it's just going to be such a hassle. And while you like to think everyone would be good, you just don't want to risk the possibility that people start biffing rubbish off the side of a road when they're trying to drive back at the end of a weekend. Now,
I think you'll get full agreement on that one, but you can't stop them.
But if we design things to make it easy for them not to do it by having Molocks that are there for people to do, and it's great. There's the donation bin there, slot there that you put money in if you don't have a blue bag even to get it through. It's something that we really, really value from the council. We don't want street lights. We don't need footpaths. We don't need much at Waikato Bay. We need a place to go and throw the rubbish, keep it as a nice dark sky, and a little bit from the rubbish bins at the council sites. But everybody that I've spoken to that's actually associated with Waikato is really, really strongly saying we want to keep the Molocks. I saw there was an email from the Ratepayers Association. I'm not speaking on their behalf, but from their survey, when I saw it, there was 102 responses and 2 were supportive of removing the Molocks and 100 were saying, please keep them.
They are at least sited in a much more sensible place than any others. So thank you for that. Are there any further questions of Alan? I hold it. So thank you very much, Alan. I really appreciate it. Very good.
Not a problem. Thanks for the good work. And and if the only final thing I'll say is, if it's the case that the Molocks are getting overloaded too much and need some community assistance through the Christmas, New Year, I'm sure if you linked up with the Ratepayers Association, people would volunteer to go down and spend 20 minutes helping the rubbish guy throw them all in or do something else, whatever needed to happen to make it work.
Thank you.
Please let us keep them. Thanks, team.
Awesome. Thank you, Alan. Okay, Johnny, I'm sorry, there's one more before you. Mandy Sewell, is she available?
Mandy, yes. Mandy, you're up.
Yes,
Mandy?
I'm here.
Right. Do we have video?
Can you hear me?
We can hear
I can hear you. Just make your seat up the way, sir.
Okay. I don't think I've got video.
That's all right. If we can hear you, you're fine. You don't have to have video.
Okay. Thanks,
It's
Sandra.
optional.
My two main concerns about the proposed LTP are recycling and waste disposal, and water infrastructure. Recycling now is the future. It's just got to happen, and it's fantastic that the new recycling plant is going ahead for Whitianga, and it's been fast tracked. Fantastic. Everybody's just talking about it and wants it happening as soon as possible. But I think we've got to really revisit recycling that's been done in the home. People need to be re-educated because things have changed in recycling a bit and the rules have changed a bit. I think we need to reissue the stickers that go on the recycling bins and have more information about what can be recycled now, i.e. the numbers that you're allowed 1, 2. Some areas, people come into the area, they're allowed to recycle 5, and that can be polluting the recycle bin. And your plastic, so they need to be cleaned. The lids are on, the lids are off. Are you allowed to put the lids in the recycling bin? So maybe a reissue of the stickers or a booklet or a pamphlet or something like that, just to get people's minds thinking about doing it, seriously at home again. And I wonder about local food outlets. I know a lot of them are doing a lot towards using cardboard and recyclable containers, packaging, but maybe the supermarkets need to be just given another shunt in that direction. We also need to reuse and reduce the recycling and the rubbish that's coming out of our homes. Not buying products that you're not happy with the packaging, repurposing plastic containers. I think home composting really has to be encouraged to reduce all food waste. I know it would be an extra cost, but I'm sure there's people out there would be interested in running courses on recycling and looking toward waste-free living. Op shops are also, we've got a lot of op shops in Whitianga. They're also all really keen to get stuff as well. So, yeah, another option. The other thing I'm very concerned about, as a lot of people in Whitianga, is the water infrastructure in our town. I think we really have to focus on that now, because development and developing housing areas is just not stopping, and it's going to get to a stage where we're having trouble now, but what's going to happen in the future, the next 10 years that we've got to think about. I think the building consent deal has to be upgraded to cover the water usage in a home, so that it's okay having more water tanks installed, but surely there must be systems that can be installed in homes that reuse water 2 or 3 times. It's not just getting flushed down the toilet or washed from your guttering out onto the street. I'm also concerned about the introduction of the excessive costs and charges to the boat launching and trailer parking fees. I think they are excessive. People don't mind user pays, of course. But I think the $200 and the $80 new increases are excessive. Also, the proposed charges at the wharfs around the peninsula. In the LTP document, it says that these were going to be discussed with key users, and that hasn't happened. We've been involved in the commercial fishing industry, and we had notification of these charges about 5 days before the cut-off point for the submission. So I think there needs to be consultation, as said in the document that there was going to be. And you remember in the old days, I know it's changed a lot, but people used to sit around a table and consult all the interested people that were key to any specific thing that was going to happen. All sat down and talked about things. I know this is sort of a new way of doing it, but to say that you're going to consult with people over the next year and then don't do that, you're going to charge so much more in the next couple of months. I don't think that's entirely fair. And just two more points just to finish. The poor Whitianga Hall needs a bit of TLC. She's looking a bit shabby. And can you please not give consent to any more alcohol outlets in Whitianga? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mandy. Really appreciate it. Are there any questions of Mandy? There being none, thank you very much, Mandy. We appreciate you taking the time to come on board.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you. So, Diane, just before you start, Diane, Ross Stewart is the only submitter that won't be joining us today.
Right.
So, welcome, Diane. Great to see you.
Kia ora, everybody. I'm sorry I can't be there in person today, but thank you for the opportunity to talk to my very short submission. And first and foremost, we just want to support the work that Destination Coromandel's doing. I'm hoping this room's not too echoey. It's certainly sounding echoey from where I'm sitting. support the work. So continued investment in Destination Coromandel is absolutely imperative, and we're seeing the work that we do collaboratively to promote people coming to this area has resulted in some quite amazing numbers. The Totara counter is up 20% on last year. And if I take it back, and considering that we had COVID-19, you expect it to be up. So I also looked at 2019 numbers, and the people using the trail between Kopu and Thames is up 81% on 2019. 81%, that's big numbers. So even if I go to Hikataia, which is at the southern end of our section with you, we're up. We're on par with last year, but we're up 100% on 2017-18 numbers. People are coming, and a lot of that is the work that we're doing in collaboration with Destination Coromandel. So we support the ongoing continued funding and in fact increased funding for that organisation. The discussion in the document around information centres, we've seen some really good examples of how information centres work around the Coromandel district that have worked reasonably well. And I know there's been some hiccups and things like that, but ultimately at the end of the day, it is a business decision. Information centres throughout New Zealand do not make money. And so if you're looking at those and funding those as a source of revenue income, it's never going to happen. There's only about 3 or 4 information centres out of the entire network that actually turn a profit. And that's been like that ever since I've been in tourism for probably 20, 25 years. It's a fact of life. So the decision to move away potentially from a manned information centre will be a business decision based on the information received from Destination Coromandel, and we'll support whatever lead they take on that. What I do want to talk about is the fact that there was a bit of silence in the document with regards to the Haraki rail trail and its direction forward. The trail surface has now reached 10 years of age, and so that's the end of its lifespan. I spoke to council a few months back just with regards to some of those numbers, and they are big. We're looking at between $6 to $7 million of resurfacing for the trail network on the ballast of the old train tracks, because it is disappearing. The fines are disappearing through the ballast. TCDC's exposure to that is 1.3 million, of which we would work with the ministry to actually reduce that. But more importantly, what I'd like to do is have the ability to work with staff at TCDC to find cost-effective solutions. This is the first quote we've had with regards to how much that might be, and I'd like to think we could do it for a lot less than that. But what I do need is strong support from all 3 of my settler councils to resolve the surfacing issues now that our trail is 10 years old. It is driving people to our area. Our average spend on the last 12 months is $220 that per person per stay, and that does sound like it's down a little bit because we were up in the 250 mark, but that included our internationals. If I compare that to our domestic market was returning 171 per person. So people are coming, they're staying longer, they're wanting to come back, they're talking to their mates, they're all coming back. And even with the opening up of our borders again slowly, people are investing in their camper vans, they're investing in ways that they can still enjoy their life, e-bikes and things in New Zealand. So the market has still got a lot of room for growth, and so we need to make sure we're giving them the absolute best opportunity to get in and spend money, which brings me to my last point about the clear linkages through to Shortland Wharf at Thames CBD. I understand there's work going on from that, and if there's ways that we can leverage that funding to sort of develop our trailhead so people have a sense of arrival when they reach Thames, that would be wonderful. We've just been going through installing a new form of signage to direct people clearly from the Kopu Bowl so they don't miss Thames out, and give them more reasons to come up and visit. So we've got a bit of work to do there on our rotary shelters and that, to give people compelling reasons to travel the extra 7Ks up. Just on an absolute aside note, I just want to support Alan Bullett's comment about dark skies, no lights, and no footpaths. I think that's just one of the quintessential New Zealand beach kind of things that we absolutely love about living in this wonderful community we have. So I support that 100% to sort of keep our beach feel to our small communities. But that's everything from me, and I'm open to any questions.
Oh, well done, Diane. Thank you. Can I just ask, what is the length of surface for each of the three councils? While funding is proportional, that's really based on that split for the construction of the trail between the councils in the first instance. What is the actual length of surface for each of the three councils?
So from the 160 kilometres that we've got, TCDC is 7 plus. So I've got to work it out on the top of my head, but it's the smallest. It's about 11% of the entire network is TCDC. So it's the smaller end of things where it sort of sits. So we've worked it out, the costings that I've worked out in dividing the funding up sits around that proportional rate that we use. So MPDC's just moved up to 18%. HDC is sitting at 56% of the trail network, and so 160 kilometres divided by times by those figures, you'll get an idea. So it's about 24 kilometres, I think it is, for TCDC.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. Are there any other questions of Diane? Tony?
Diane, Tony Fox. So can you give me an indication of how much revenue is generated by the users of the trail? And that is direct, like, do they pay to get on that and ride on it?
They don't ever get charged to ride the trail. It's set by central government that to be part of the Great Ride Network, it's a free activity. We cannot put a toll gate up at the beginning of each trail section, but they do support us and good funding, 50% co-funding on the different projects. But if we've got an average spend at the moment of $220 per person, we're looking at approximately a $22 million return to the entire trail network from people visiting our area. If the respondents' feedback is accurate, and that's based on 252, that 220 is based on 252 respondents over the last 12 months.
Jared?
Yeah, Diane, Terry Walker. I've just done the rail trail down south, and we spent about $1,600 over the sort of 6 or 7 days there.
Yes.
A lot of the money went to the organisations who are picking our luggage up and taking to accommodation.
Yes.
And accommodation. Do you provide that service on this trail?
Yeah. Haraki Rail Trail Charitable Trust, we manage the trail and the asset, but we have operators, and an example of a very professional operator is Jolly Bikes in Richmond Street. And their packages range from $1,600 to $2,000 for a similar product that you've just experienced down in the South Island.
Right.
Okay. Diane, you talked about the entrance to Thames.
Yes.
Where do you see that being?
Currently, with our entrance to Thames, our trailhead, where it currently sits, is at Shortland Wharf, just south of that, because we haven't got the ability to cross over and attach to the coastal walkway. It'd be nice if we could resolve that, but I know that staff are working through a way of getting people into the Thames CBD. But it's really important that, and it's something that's always been missing on the trail network, that there's no sense of arrival or achievement at any one of our townships.
So, what do you think of this idea? I have to ask a question. So what about an archway that when you walk through it, the lights all flash and there's a big, you've won, welcome?
I like the idea of an archway. I'm not sure about flashing lights. Sandra, if you're going to help me fund it, I'll do anything.
We're not making this.
It's been a long day. Okay. Well, you know, sort of like,
No, we can have
clearly not endorsed by the rest of the council. Just a thought.
Just a thought. Yep, I'll note that down, Sandra.
Even Martin's shaking his head. Okay. Any other questions of Diane? Good on you. Thank you so much, Diane.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Rightio, okay, so our last submission for today is Jackie Lloyd.
And Jackie has just indicated that she's unable to speak, so we.
So that concludes the hearings for today. Until tomorrow.
We'll move to tomorrow.
Well, we can today, so I don't know if we can do that.
Not sure if they move, yeah. So we can adjourn and we'll reconvene tomorrow at the hearing.
Okay, so we're adjourning and reconvening tomorrow in Tiana. See you all in Christmas City, except for those of you who decide to come in on Zoom. Thank you, Ellen. I can see you there. Hi, bye. Oh, sorry. So, folks, Rob got called away. That closes today's meeting.